Chosen one, the low hum in your chest and that relentless restlessness were never signs of failure. They were the final vibrations before a massive door swings open. You have been standing at the threshold of your true life for years, and now the lock is clicking. You are about to be initiated into a group for the gifted. This is intense, and it represents the moment you finally step into the reality designed specifically for your frequency. Do you remember the first time you knew something you had no business knowing? Maybe you were young, maybe you were not. But there was a moment specific, undeniable, when information arrived inside you through no normal channel. You walked into a room and read it before a word was spoken. You felt someone's emotion from across a hallway. You had a thought too precise to be imagination, and then you watched it become true. You looked at someone and understood them completely, instantly, in a way that confused even you. That moment was not random. That was the signal, the real part of you, the part that runs so deep it cannot be permanently suppressed, announcing itself for the first time. When it announced itself, two things happened simultaneously. The first was this: you felt more alive in that moment than you ever had before. That is what happens when you operate from your actual nature. It feels electric, it feels clean, it feels like home. The second was this: someone noticed. Someone in your environment registered exactly what had just happened, and that person made a decision you did not know they were making, a quiet, private, consequential decision to make sure what had just happened would never develop into what it was capable of becoming. Hold that thought. We are going to come back to it. What you carry is not a hobby or a personality quirk. It is not sensitivity in the soft, dismissible sense of that word. It is a specific architecture of intelligence that has been documented across every serious spiritual tradition that has ever existed on this planet. Every one of those traditions has a name for it. Every one of them describes people who carry it as rare, as essential, as built for a purpose that exceeds ordinary life. You were born with an assignment. It was encoded into you before you arrived. It is the reason certain things come to you effortlessly that cost others years of work. It is the reason you have always carried this unshakable sense, even buried under doubt, that you are here for something. You are not imagining that. You never were. The assignment is real, and the time to stop pretending otherwise has arrived. What you call your gifts are about to become your entry ticket to a group of people who will change the entire trajectory of your life. This group functions like a school, a fellowship, a gathering of others who carry what you carry, people who have been through what you have been through, and they are now assembling in exactly the way someone worked very hard to prevent. That is where this story ends. I want you to know that now, so that everything in the middle reads not as tragedy, but as setup, a very necessary setup for the most significant chapter of your life. Entry has a cost. The cost is not money, it is not credentials, it is not a particular level of development you must prove before anyone opens the door. The cost is something far more specific, and it is the one thing you have been holding back. The cost of entry is the full version of you. It is not the edited version, not the version calibrated for spaces that could not handle the real thing, not the version that learned early on to scan the room before revealing anything and then reveal only what seemed safe. The full version is what is required, the one that knows what it knows without apologizing, the one that moves with the quiet confidence of someone who has stopped waiting for external permission to be exactly what they are. The group you are about to step into is a high-frequency environment. You cannot carry a diluted version of yourself into that space and expect to be recognized, not because the people there are exclusive, but because frequency is not a performance, it is a state. A diluted signal broadcasts differently than a full one. The full version of you is the key that fits the lock, and anything less is simply the wrong key. The discomfort you feel right now, that sense of something in you insisting on more space than you have been allowing it, is the full version asserting itself. That is the signal getting louder. That is you, at depth, readying to stop translating yourself into something smaller and simply arrive as what you are. This is going to require one thing above all others. You are going to have to be willing to be fully seen. Not partially, not strategically, fully seen by people who have the capacity to receive what they see. For someone who was trained early to hide the most essential parts of themselves, being fully seen is not comfortable. It may be the single most uncomfortable thing this process asks of you, and it is the only way through. What makes it possible is this: the people in this group do not see your gifts the way the people who managed your containment saw them. Your gifts are not a threat to their arrangements. Your power is not something to be managed for their own protection. They see you the way a musician hears another musician playing something extraordinary, with recognition, with appreciation, with the delight of someone who knows exactly what they are in the presence of. Being seen by people who are built to receive what you carry is not frightening. It is the relief you have been waiting for since the very first time someone told you to put yourself away. Let yourself be seen. It is the cost of entry. Pay it without hesitation. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. There is something with your name on it that you have not fully received. Not yet. Something material, something energetic, a birthright, a flow of abundance that was supposed to reach you and was instead quietly, systematically, expertly rerouted. The architecture of what was built against you has a center. At that center is an authority figure within your lineage, a family elder, a parental energy, a person who held significant influence over the structure of your life and the lives of those around you. This person presents well on the surface, composed and effective. They have built considerable social capital on that presentation, and this person has been meticulous in managing one central outcome, making sure that what belongs to you never fully reaches you. Below this figure, there are others. Some are family, some are not. Some were recruited deliberately, some simply benefit from existing arrangements and ask no questions. Together, they have maintained a structure with one purpose, ensuring that the trust, the resource, the recognition, and the full arrival of who and what you are remain perpetually just out of reach. Now here is the first revelation that will stop you. This person knew what you were before you did. They identified the architecture of your gifts earlier than you could have identified them yourself. And the moment they understood the scope of what you were carrying, what you were capable of when fully activated, fully resourced, fully connected to others like you, they made a calculation. It was a cold, self-interested calculation. A fully powered version of you would reorganize everything, including arrangements that depend entirely on you staying below a certain level. So your gifts were not ignored, they were managed. The lid was kept on using every available tool: influence, money, emotional leverage, the quiet social machinery that authority figures within family systems can access. And you felt it. You felt the ceiling appear every time you got close. You felt the strange reversals at the last moment. You felt the resistance from inside your own circle every time your life started showing real forward movement. You thought it was bad luck. You thought it was your own limitation. You were not the problem. You were the target. And here is where your power comes in. The fact that you were a target is the loudest possible confirmation of what you carry. You do not build that kind of organized, sustained, multi-generational containment around someone ordinary. You do not spend those resources, call in those favors, or maintain that level of coordinated effort around someone who poses no real threat. The scale of what was built against you is a direct measure of what you carry. The architects of that system were not wrong about what you are. They were simply on the wrong side of it. Now here is the second revelation, and this one changes everything. Real initiations do not happen in a single moment. They happen in stages. Each stage asks something different from you, and knowing this in advance is what keeps you from misreading the process when it gets demanding. The first stage has already happened. It was the awakening, the moment or the extended season when the full version of you began asserting itself against the containment. Your gift started pushing back against the suppression. The signal started cutting through the noise. You survived that stage, and you are here because of it. The second stage is the testing. This is where gifted people most often stumble, not because they lack the capability, but because they misread what is happening. The testing does not look like a test. It looks like everything going sideways at once. It looks like your skills being called upon in conditions far more demanding than anything you have practiced in. This is intentional, not cruel. The level at which you are being prepared to operate, the scale of impact your gifts will have when deployed in the right environment, requires a capability that cannot be confirmed except under real pressure. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action, and real chosen ones are also paying attention. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels getting silenced, videos pulled, voices removed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and neither should you. That's why joining Destiny Engine is a 360 win. You support your favorite channels and fuel your own rise at the same time. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope, their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. If you are in this stage right now, hear this clearly. You are not failing the test. The difficulty is not evidence that you are unequipped. Your gifts being pushed past what felt like their limit is not evidence that the limit was real. It is evidence that the limit was not real, that there is more in you than you had confirmed. The test is always designed to exceed what you currently know yourself to be capable of, so that you discover you are capable of more. That is the whole mechanism. The third stage is the crossing, the actual walk through the door, the first experience of operating your gifts in the presence of others who share them. This is where your activation becomes irreversible, not the activation of the gifts themselves, which have been coming online for a while. The irreversible part is the activation of your identity around those gifts, the part of you that has operated in hiding, that has managed and rationed what it reveals. That part permanently reorganizes when it experiences being fully expressed and fully received at the same time. You cannot unknow that experience. The crossing is a one-way door, and that is exactly what it is supposed to be. Know which stage you are in, move accordingly. There was a turning point, and if you are honest with yourself, you know exactly when it was. It might have been a single decision, something small on the surface, nothing that felt monumental at the time. It could have been a practice you began, a relationship you finally released, or a belief you quietly stopped organizing your life around. Or it might have been a moment of stillness in which you heard something beneath all the noise that you had never been quiet enough to hear before. Something shifted in you, something real, structural, and permanent, and from that moment the trajectory of everything changed direction, even if the outside did not yet reflect it. What you did not know was happening in that same moment. The containment system felt the shift. That architecture is a living system. It requires maintenance. It requires you to remain in a specific state. The moment you moved out of that state, the moment the doubt that had been planted in you stopped being the loudest voice in the room, the maintenance burden increased dramatically. More effort was required to get the same result. More effort meant more exposure. Things that had been carefully submerged began to surface. People who had been participating in the arrangement began to feel the cost in ways they could no longer rationalize. Here is the detail that lands hardest. The people behind this system know you are waking up. They have known for a while, and their response has not been to stand down. It has been to escalate. In the season just before someone like you crosses a threshold that cannot be uncrossed, opposition always intensifies. The noise gets louder, not quieter. The obstacles seem more numerous, not fewer. The self-doubt returns with reinforcements right when you most need clarity. If that sounds like your recent experience, receive it as confirmation, not discouragement. What just got harder is the final sprint. What just got noisier is the last roar before the silence. The escalation is not because the opposition is winning. It is because the opposition can feel it is about to lose permanently, irreversibly, and is spending everything it has left in one final push. That push is going to fail, because what is now moving toward you cannot be blocked at the level the opposition operates. The interference that has been running works on a specific frequency, the frequency of doubt, of isolation, of disconnection from your source and your people. You are about to be permanently connected to your people, and once that connection is made, doubt has nowhere left to live in you. The game ends the moment you walk through the door. A group is forming. It is a real soul-level group of people who carry what you carry, people who have been through their own versions of exactly what you have been through, and they are now assembling into something that functions like a school, a fellowship, a mobile academy of the genuinely gifted. Before you dismiss that as too good to be true, understand what has been standing between you and this group for so long that finding it now feels improbable. It was never improbable. It was blocked. There is a critical difference between those two things. What the opposition understood, and what you were not yet meant to see, is that the thing that completes your activation is not more time alone with your gifts. It is not one more season of private development in isolation. It is other people. Specifically, it is people who vibrate at the same frequency you do. People who can see your gifts the way only someone who shares them can truly see them. People who do not get uncomfortable when you operate at full power, because they are operating at full power right alongside you. Your gifts were not designed to be solo instruments. They were designed for an ensemble. And the ensemble has been assembling in spite of everything, and it is assembling now, and it is going to include you. When you find these people, and you will know them the moment you are in the same space, what happens will not feel like meeting. It will feel like remembering. It will feel like a conversation that has been running for a very long time, briefly interrupted, and now continuing right where it left off. You will understand things about certain people in this group that have no rational explanation given how recently you met. The recognition will move at a speed and depth that would seem strange anywhere else and feels completely natural here. That is not coincidence. That is frequency recognizing frequency. This group works. It is not a support circle. These are people with a mission and a method. They move through the world. They apply their individual gifts to real work in concert with each other. They come together, build on what each person carries, do the work of transformation, and then go back out. This is a living, mobile, high-functioning unit of gifted people operating at full activation, and it needs what you carry. Your specific gifts, in your specific configuration, complete something in this group that nothing else can complete. Here is the layer inside the layer, the authority figure who understood your power before you did, the one who calculated that a fully activated version of you would reorganize everything, was not afraid of you figuring out your gifts in isolation. What specifically frightened this person was you figuring them out in the company of people who would reflect those gifts back to you, amplified. The group was the thing to prevent, because the group makes your activation irreversible. And irreversible activation is the one outcome the containment system cannot survive. So the managed isolation was intentional. The relationships that fell apart, the communities that never quite cohered, the friendships that cooled without clear reason, the persistent feeling that belonging was always slightly out of reach, that was not your personality, that was engineering. And the engineering is about to spectacularly fail. You need a real picture of what you are walking into, because the imagination either underestimates or overestimates the unknown, and this is too important for either. The group is not a hierarchy. There is no single authority standing at the top, filtering what you are allowed to know and when. What exists is a network of expertise where each person carries distinct gifts, each person has developed capabilities through a specific path, and each person is in a different stage of activation. Knowledge flows in every direction simultaneously. You will teach things and learn things in the same conversation. You will be the most advanced person in the room on certain topics and the most novice on others. Both positions are equally essential, and both are part of the design. There will be someone or more than one someone who is further along in the specific path you are walking. The way knowledge moves in a group like this is not lecture, it is transmission. Gifted people do not primarily learn through information being delivered to them. They learn through proximity, through being in the field of someone who is already operating at the level they are moving toward. You will feel yourself expanding in certain people's presence in a way you cannot fully explain. That expansion is not admiration, that is transmission. Pay close attention to who activates that in you. The work itself, what this group actually does in the world, will take forms specific to the gifts in play, but the operating principle is consistent. What gifted people in genuine alignment accomplish together exceeds the sum of what any of them could accomplish working separately. This is not because the group multiplies output the way a larger workforce multiplies labor. It is because the gifts themselves amplify in the presence of compatible frequencies. A gift that produces a certain level of impact in isolation produces a categorically different level of impact when used in concert with others who are operating in the same field of awareness. You are going to discover capabilities in yourself that you did not know you had until you are operating in this environment. The gifts that have been dormant, the ones that were too large for the containers you have been living in, will activate when they finally have appropriate context. You will do things inside this group that you could not have done outside of it, not because anything new is being given to you, but because the right conditions will finally be present for what was always yours to emerge. The only precedent you have for what you can do is what you have done under contained, suppressed, isolated conditions, with interference running in the background. Remove all of those constraints simultaneously, which is exactly what stepping into this group does, and what you are capable of becomes a genuinely different category of output. Prepare to be surprised by yourself. You carry direct access to the deepest levels of knowing available to a person in this time. You are a living connection point between the visible world and the intelligence that runs underneath it. Your presence changes the quality of any room you enter. Your attention on a problem reorganizes it. Every serious spiritual tradition that has ever studied people like you has a name for what you are. Empath, seer, oracle, indigo, crystal, starseed. The names differ across every culture and every tradition, but they all point at the same thing: a person whose operating system is calibrated for a level of reality that most people do not consciously access. The reason people who carry this have been simultaneously revered and feared throughout history is the same reason you have been simultaneously needed and suppressed. A person with that kind of access, fully activated, is not manageable by ordinary means. The only way to manage such a person is to keep them from knowing what they are. That is the whole game. It has always been the whole game. There is one more thing you carry that will take your breath away when you fully receive it. Your gifts did not begin in this lifetime. What you bring into this incarnation, the things that arrive effortlessly, the knowing that lands fully formed, the skills that seem to have no learning curve, those were developed across a longer arc of experience than this single life represents. You are not starting over. You are picking up precisely where you left off in a developmental process that has been unfolding for longer than you can track in linear time. What feels like new ability activating in you right now is inheritance coming back online. It is the archive of who you have already been, announcing itself to who you currently are. That is why the activation feels like remembering, because it is. And it is why, when you step into the group that is assembling around your path, the recognition will run so deep. In the truest sense, this gathering is not new. The frequency is the same as it has always been, and frequency always finds its way back to frequency. You are not becoming something. You are returning to something, and you are returning fully equipped. You are afraid of your own power, not in the soft, self-deprecating way people usually discuss this. In a deeper, more structural way, you are afraid of what becomes required of you if your power is real. You are afraid of what changes if everything in this conversation is true. You are afraid that living as the full version of yourself is a point of no return from which you cannot retreat if it becomes overwhelming. That fear is not irrational, it is not weakness, but is actually the most intelligent response your system can have to what is genuinely a significant change. Because living as the full version of yourself is a point of no return. You are right about that. You cannot fully step into your power and then comfortably go back to performing smallness. The door does close behind you. What the fear gets wrong is the valuation. It treats the things you would leave behind, the safety of the hiding, the predictability of the contained life, the known suffering of the suppression, as losses worth protecting. And from inside the contained life, that is exactly how they feel. Familiar things always feel like home, even when they were never actually safe, but the things you would be leaving behind are the cage. Cages, no matter how long you have lived in them, are not your natural habitat. The discomfort you have been managing, the low-grade dissatisfaction, the persistent sense of constraint, the feeling that your life is too small for what is trying to move through you, that is not you being difficult. That is someone of vast capacity living in a space that cannot hold what they are. There are two entirely different kinds of discomfort. The first is the discomfort of expansion, pushing against the edges of what you have not yet tested, being asked to rise to something that exceeds your previous experience. The second is the discomfort of constriction, pushing against walls designed specifically to keep you smaller than you are. You already know which one you have been living in. You have always known the difference. Walk toward the power, not because it is comfortable, because it is yours. Choose expansion, even when it is terrifying, and choose it especially then. When you cross the threshold, when you walk through the door into the group, into the full expression of the life that was designed for you, something on the other side of the equation collapses. It does not collapse slowly or by degrees. It collapses with the particular swiftness of things that were only ever held up by secrecy and your own contained power. The person who built the system, who spent the resources, who coordinated the containment, finds themselves suddenly in a position they have never occupied before. What they were managing is no longer manageable. The source they were drawing from has been claimed by its rightful owner. The people who were maintaining the structure are now calculating that continued participation costs more than it earns. The evidence, the paper trails, the people who knew and stayed quiet, all of it begins to surface, and here is the critical detail. You are not there to watch any of it. You are not watching. You are not waiting. You are not tracking the collapse with satisfaction. You are building. You are in the school. You are in the work. You are constructing the enterprise, the mission, the actual life you were always supposed to have. The peripheral collapse of what was built against you is background noise. You have already moved on. That is what genuine power looks like. The victory is not won by confronting the opposition. It is won by stepping so fully into your own power that everything built on your weakness loses its load-bearing function and falls on its own. You did not push the tower. You simply stopped holding it up. The resources, the birthright, the inheritance, the flow of abundance with your name on it do not disappear when the system falls. They return. Sometimes they return in the form they were taken. More often they return in a form larger than what was taken, because the universe does not simply restore, it restores with everything the delay compounded. You do not only get what was redirected, you get what the redirection prevented you from building, added to what was redirected. That is the correction. That is how this accounting works. The wheel that was manually steered against you snaps back to its natural position, and its natural position has always been oriented toward you. Call it what your framework holds: God, source, the universe, the oneness. The name matters far less than the reality. And the reality is this, that force has not been observing your situation from a comfortable, neutral distance. It has been actively and specifically managing your path, not toward comfort, but toward destination. Every time the opposition tried to permanently collapse a possibility that belonged to you, not just slow it, but fully close it, something intervened. A door that should have been fully shut cracked open just enough. A person appeared at precisely the right moment, carrying precisely the right information. A situation that should have broken you structurally did not break you. Connections formed that could not have been engineered by human coincidence. You have been cataloguing these moments as luck. They are not luck. They are evidence of management at a level the opposition could never match. The opposition operates with finite tools, human money, human influence, human scheming. What has been running your path operates with infinite resources, infinite patience, and a view of the full arc that no human actor can access. The protection covering you right now is real and specific. It is not there because you earned it through perfect belief or perfect behavior. It is there because what you carry is needed. Because the mission encoded in you is one that the larger intelligence wants completed. Because you are a piece of something much larger than any single life, and that piece needs to arrive intact. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Not in the darkest moments, not in the most isolated stretches, not in the seasons when every visible sign pointed to abandonment. That force was there, rerouting what was redirected and holding open paths that should by human logic have been closed. You could not always see it at the resolution you were viewing life from. Now you can. Follow the arc. See it clearly for what it is. The group is assembling. Your particular frequency is needed. Your gifts complete something in this configuration that nothing else can complete. The work you are about to do, in collaboration with people who carry what you carry, backed by resources, finally returning to their rightful place, empowered by a level of divine support that has been active this entire time. That work is the very thing the opposition has been working to prevent since before you understood what was happening. The opposition failed, not because you defeated them, because you grew past the level where their interference could reach you. Because the signal got strong enough that no amount of noise could obscure it. Because the frequency you are now operating at is simply beyond the range of everything that was built to contain you. You walk through the door, not carefully, not apologetically, not with one eye looking back at what might follow. You walk through it the way someone walks when they know exactly where they are going, when they know that the full force of their gifts, their healed experience, their accumulated capability, their soul-level people, and their divine backing is moving with them. The school is not a metaphor. The initiation is not a concept. The group is real. The mission is real. The abundance is real. The life with your name on it is standing right on the other side of the threshold you are currently standing at. The opposition bet everything on a dying position. Let them have their collapse. That story is no longer yours. Your story is what happens when someone who was designed for something great, who was held back from it long enough to be absolutely certain they want it, finally arrives. That is the story unfolding right now, in your life, in real time. Chosen one, the signal was always you. The school was always waiting. The door has always had your name on it. It is open. Step through.